What makes a poll scientific? That's what we're looking at here because we're prepping for another quantitative essay. Remember, quantitative essay means we look at data, and polls make a perfect place for AP to ask you about data, and you have to obviously analyze it and then also know what about a poll, so you have to apply content that you've learned in the class. So that's really important. So let's look at what a little review, what makes a poll scientific, and then do some analysis of a couple different polls and see what we can pull out of them. All right, so first off, remember that what makes a poll scientific? It has a margin of error. That means that there's been a statistical analysis of it. Two, it has an appropriate sample size, which is going to be between 800 and 1,000. Also, it uses a random sample. You're not just like testing, you're not like polling only people that drive pickup trucks or only people that drive a Toyota Prius, or just people who shop at Walmart, or just people who shop at Whole Foods stores. You're actually getting a random sample that therefore makes it accurate. And the sample includes appropriate demographic levels. So you need to have the right number of men and women and ethnic groups, income levels, party identification. All of that has to be part of it. All right. So with that said, let's look at the first one. All right. I want you to take a second and you're going to pause this video and I want you to look at this sample set. And I want you to find a couple things that are really good about the poll and make it scientific. And then maybe find something that like makes it not great. Like maybe a part of the poll that isn't very good. Okay, so go ahead and pause, and then I am going to unpause in a second. Okay, so you should be unpaused now. You should have sat and wrote something down or thought through it. So here's an example. What's really good about this poll is the sample size. It's massive. Remember, a good sample is 800 to 1,000. This has 6,600 people. So the margin of error is 1.7%. That's amazing. So really, really good here. And then the other side, the demographic groups, white, black, Hispanic, look pretty good. However, the problematic part with the poll, the problematic part of the poll is the Asian group, only 355. Of course, Asians make up like less than 3% of our population, so probably the pollster had trouble actually getting Asians to answer, especially if it's random. And the sample size, therefore, has a 7.8% margin of error. Now, if you're just looking at a total sample, that's fine. It's a good poll. If you were trying to look at what Asians thought about something, then a 7.8% margin of error is not good because you're looking for 4% or less, really, for a good poll. All right, that's that one. Let's try another one. Again, you're going to pause it. You're going to analyze it, maybe write something down, or at least think through it, and then hit go, hit play once you've done that. All right, here's one. I just want to emphasize the methodology because that's what you want to look at. The methodology are what we call the internals of the poll. So this one says the ABC News Washington Post poll was conducted by landline and cell phone in English and Spanish among a random national sample of 1,001 adults, which includes 651 likely voters. The results have a margin of a sampling error of 3.5%. So that's the whole poll. For the full sample, and 4.5 points of margin of error for likely voters. Partisan divisions are 33, 23, 36, Democrat, Republican, and Independent in the full sample, and 37, 27, 28 among likely voters. Okay, pause it and analyze like what's good and what's bad. Okay, you should have unpaused now. If you didn't go back and analyze it on your own, do that because I won't be there to help you on the test. Okay, so what's good? Landline and cell phone, that's good. Landline and cell phone is good. A random national sample, good. English and Spanish, that's pretty good. All right, I like that too. 1,001 people in the whole poll, that's good. That's good size. All right, margin of sample among the whole set, 3.5%. That's good. All right, let's talk about what I would have concerns with, and hopefully you came up with this as well. All right, problems. Only 651 likely voters. In the margin sample for that is 4.5%. So neither of those is great. One of the problems you have is that when it's adults means there's a bunch of people who don't vote. Only about half of all adults will actually vote, and only about 60% of registered voters will actually vote. About 80% of people are registered, and then about 60% in a presidential election in a good year will vote. Sometimes as low as 50% of registered voters will vote. So less than half the population is selecting the president. So only having 651 likely voters, not great. 4.5%, not great. Also, partisan division. You might not have picked up on this, but the in the middle it has actual registration. Dem is +4. Okay, Dem +4, D +4, so 4% more Dems than Republicans. And in this sample, it was +10. It was Democrat +10. So it's a skewed sample, I should say, toward Democrats. All right, so hopefully you picked up on some of those things, the good and the bad. But remember, what makes this scientific poll is that it does have the right number. It does have a margin of error. It was random. It was landline and cell. All those are good. But in terms of accuracy, this has some problems. Okay, good. All right, cool. Let's go to another one, our last one, and you need to again pause and come up with some things on your own. Okay, so here's this poll. It says February 5 to 11, High Point University phone poll of 439 North Carolina adults. By the way, the fact that High Point University did the poll does not mean it only polled college students. Margin of error is 4.7, and numbers may not equal 100% because of rounding. All right, good. So go ahead and analyze this poll. Go ahead and pause it and discuss potential problems. Do you think there's a sample bias like in it? And then anything that's surprising that might come to you. Okay, I'm pausing now. All right, back with this. You should have thought of a few things. So there's a couple obvious problems with this poll. There's only 439 adults that were polled, so the margin of error is 4.7. I'm surprised it's not larger than that. So neither of those things are great. It's only adults. It's not likely voters. It's not registered voters. So like again, if you get a bunch of people who aren't going to vote, I'm sorry, but their opinion just doesn't matter as much as it does for people who are actually engaged. So that's a problem. We don't know if it's a random call. We're going to assume that it's random, but we don't know that information. We don't know what the partisan breakdown of the poll is. So that's hard to analyze. Is there potential sample bias? Maybe. A couple things stick out to me. The top two candidates that people say yes should run were Biden and Sanders. And overwhelmingly, Biden even had a majority. So the fact that the top two were Democrats means that there might be some Democrat bias in this poll. And the partisan breakdown in North Carolina is probably pretty even. So that's interesting. The fact that Trump had 56% of people say no tells me that the sample probably does have skews more toward the Democrat side. That's potential as well. But I'm not really sure because we don't have the data. But the big thing you should pick up on is that the margin of error is high and that it's only adults. And the fact that it's only in North Carolina, I mean, that tells us about North Carolina. It doesn't tell us a whole lot about the national poll. But it's probably fine in North Carolina. But the margin of error is still kind of terrible. All right. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you understand a little bit about analyzing a poll and like its good and the bad. And you should go to realclearpolitics.com and check out some of the polls they have on the right-hand side on the national poll, and just see if you can find some of the internals and look at those. Good luck. And if you have questions, email me.